coaching seat for the first time for your draft?
It was a pretty cool experience. I really think a lot of that work is done, in the months leading up to it, but you never quite know how that draft's going to fall. But I feel like Goody and the guys did a really good job having that board stacked, and we got a lot of guys that we actually targeted prior to the draft.
What do you think?
How loud was your voice in there at various times? Was it at all? Were you more?
I was always chiming in to Goody, always.
What
And how do you think that went?
I thought it was great. I think we were in line with a lot of our views, even going into it. And then, there are a couple situations where you got two guys sitting there and you talk through it and you take the best one that you think can help your football team.
do you think free agency and then your two high draft picks?
Say that one more time.
What do you think free agency and the 2 high draft picks have done for your defense?
Oh, I think it's added a lot of, playmakers on the defensive side of the ball. I'll tell you one thing, just, being an offensive coach my entire career, you can never have enough pass rushers. And I think we definitely upgraded our ability to rush a passer. And there's nothing harder on an offense, especially if you can rotate guys through and just keep sending fresh guys at an offensive line.
I think Jace and Dexter will fit into what you want to do.
Jace?
Yeah, Sternberger and Williams, how they.
Yeah, I think both of those guys. First, starting with Jace, he's got a pretty cool skill set in the fact that he's a tight end that can separate. And anytime you got those types of guys, that becomes a little bit of a matchup nightmare for a defense. And then Dexter, I've got a lot of history with having coached at Notre Dame, and just his ability to be a one-cut runner, which is what we're looking for. I think he was. I was quite frankly, I was a little surprised he was still there.
Man, what's your approach to the rookie camp, getting those guys in here, and what you want to get done? Next weekend, I assume it is.
Yeah, I think first of all, it's our first opportunity to get to learn our guys and them to learn us, and kind of lay out the expectations for them, and just kind of give them a taste of our scheme, both offensively, defensively, and special teams. But I'm looking forward to getting them in here on Thursday.
How many times do you practice with those guys?
We're going to go 2 days with it. We're going to go Friday and Saturday, and so we'll have 2 solid practices with them.
Matt, does your tight end spend a lot of time in the slot? Do you like your guys in line? I mean, is that important to you that they're able to play there the majority of the time?
Yeah, I think you like the versatility. Certainly, they're going to be in line. I mean, they're a tight end for a reason, but we have no problem flexing a tight end out. Sometimes you'll see them all the way outside the numbers at the number 1 position. So they'll be all over the place. And what we've done over the last few years is try to find a guy that's a movable piece that you can pop back in the backfield as well.
Just how grueling has this last week been for you, or maybe the last couple of weeks, I should say, between getting a football team ready with guys who are here and then doubling as, helping with the draft and all that?
I mean, this is what it's all about. This has been fun. Getting the guys in the building. Do you work a few hours? You certainly do, but it's been a blast.
Matt, with what you've said about wanting to run the ball and how much that's going to be the basis that a lot of stuff comes off of, how do you feel about your running back group right now? Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, Dexter Williams, and those guys. How do you feel about that bunch right now?
We feel pretty good about them, but ultimately it's about getting the guys in the building, going throughout. We're about to start phase 2, which is going to focus on skill development, and we're still in the process of installing our offense. But until you get to really training camp and to live game action, I mean that's where you really get a true evaluation of what you have.
Did you watch much film on Dexter Williams during the recruitment process when he was coming out of high school back in 2014?
To be honest with you, Yeah, I did, but that's a little foggy for me now.
What strategy, seeing the more recent film, what strategy you feel like you made the most kind of over its time?
Yeah, I mean, to reflect back on that, like, when you're in college recruiting, you're so focused on your area, you know, and your position group. And I wasn't the coordinator there, although I did watch him. I would be, you know, not telling the truth if I spent a ton of time on him coming out of high school.
And how many 4-3-7 safeties have you faced before?
What's that?
How many guys have you faced who can run safeties, who can run 4-3-7?
Not too many.
What does that do for a guy like Savage? When you were watching the tape on him, could you imagine him in the NFL, and how did you project that when you were looking at him?
Yeah, no, there's nothing worse than from an offensive perspective when there's a guy that can roam the back end and just eliminate, really, that can play the middle third and go either side and eliminate the whole field. I mean, there's very few of those guys. Earl Thomas is the first guy that comes to mind, and it is an extreme challenge when you're playing a guy like that. From a quarterback perspective, you got to do a great job with your eyes looking off. Just because if they get a step on where you're throwing the football, especially if you're trying to push it down the field, it can be problematic. And the one thing I'll say about Savage is, and you can see it with all the highlights, the guy's a ball hawk, and he's got good ball skills. And so I think, you know, we thought he was the best safety in the draft.
Matthew, you take over a team in January, then you go free agency, then you get drafted. When does it become your team?
I feel like it is. Yeah, absolutely, right now. I mean, you know, it's a collaboration in terms of building our roster with Goody in the personnel department. But no, I feel confident that, you know, these guys are going to buy into what we're doing. I feel really good about the relationships that we've already established with these guys, and just setting the tone moving forward.
Matt, when you took over and looked at the roster, did you say we have to get faster, we have to get more versatile or things like that, and then try to do that in this draft, or how did you view it when you first started?
Yeah, I think there's always holes, I mean, that you think about, but one thing, there's no doubt we've added a lot of key pieces moving forward, both in free agency and in the draft. And I mean, shoot, there's both, not only on the defensive side of the ball, but like I feel really good about you know, a guy like Billy Turner, and then the three offensive players that we drafted.
Do you like to carry 4 quarterbacks into training camp?
It just depends how good they are.
I guess if you have a stand for it, how...
No, it totally depends. I am comfortable carrying 3 because it truly is hard to get 4 guys reps. It's more or less taking throws off a guy, you know, saving a guy's arm. But I've got no problem. Last year we carried 3, and just from a rep standpoint, when you get into the team periods, it's definitely easier to get everybody not equal reps, but give them some reps so that all those guys are going to play at some point in the preseason. You want them to feel confident and feel good about going out there. It's much more difficult when you have 4 guys to get that done. The 4th guy is usually getting you know, either it's the scout team reps, or he's trying to get some after practice.
Matt, of the players drafted in the last 3 days, you know, you see everything behind the scenes. What guy surprised you most that you were able to get?
Yeah, that's a tough question because you just never know how it's going to go. But I never felt like there was a time within the draft where we were sitting there not having multiple people to pick from, which is a great feeling. So there was really nobody that I can't say surprised me that was there. You just never know. I try not to go into it with too many preconceived notions. I think you can kind of predict early on, but once it gets late in the first round into the second round, you don't really know.
Well, Rashawn Grayvick and the immediate impact, and were you aware of him in New Jersey when you were at Notre Dame and working on quarterbacks there?
Oh, Rashawn Gary? Yeah, actually I was in his high school. He probably doesn't remember it, but I was Paramus Catholic, and I was in his high school when I was recruiting Brandon Wimbush out there, and I met him for the first time, and man, they were doing some agility drills in one of their indoors on a basketball court, and I was pretty impressed. There's a big guy that can move like that. It's kind of ironic how this has come full circle, and now, we'll be coaching him here. So I'm really excited. I'll tell you what, I just know that he's a guy that's passionate about football. I think you could see by his reaction and getting drafted the other night.
Matt, we keep hearing the word versatility when it comes to your side of it, on offense too, but especially on defense. When you put a lot of trust in Mike on that side of the ball, what makes his defense, from what you can tell, work best? Is it those moving pieces that he can put everywhere? How do you kind of view it?
Yeah, he can pick up anybody, and Rashawn can rush from the inside or the outside. Same with Za'Darius. I mean, we've got guys that we can move around, and when you don't know where people are going to line up, that presents a little bit of a challenge for an offense to prepare for.
When you took the job, did you have kind of an outline of you wanted to be here on this day and here kind of on that progression? I'm curious, where you want to be at this point?
In terms of our roster?
No, just you're building your program here. Are you kind of on your own schedule?
Yeah, I had like a 10-day plan, a 30-day plan, and a 100-day plan. There's certainly some things I'd like to have done that, in terms of, you're starting from scratch, from developing all the schedules and whatnot, and I'm still in the process of doing that. I mean, I wish I had our training camp schedule done already, but you just kind of, prioritize, make a list, and start checking things off the list. But I feel like every time and I think I said this the other day, I feel like every time I check something off, I add 2 things to the bottom of that list.
Overall, do you feel like you're where you'd like to be? Obviously, I'm sure you'd like to be further ahead, but are you pretty comfortable with where you're at?
Yeah, I think so, and I realize it's all a process, and I just want to make sure when we do things, we do it right, and everything's fully thought through.
Matt, with the additions of Billy Turner and Elton Jenkins as well, would you anticipate competition pretty much everywhere except center and left tackle along that offensive line?
Yeah, and we're going to try to bring in people all the time to compete at every position, because I think that's how you develop the best version of each player.
Now, when we all talked to you in Indy, you kind of talked about how you and Brian are joined at the hip and how you guys kind of hit it off right away. How is that, in what ways has that connection developed in the days since, and now going through the draft together, et cetera?
I just think that we're really comfortable communicating with one another. And I think whether it's in football or in a business or whatever realm of life, you better have that crystal clear communication, be clear, open, and honest. And I certainly feel like we can have tough conversations and work through things and to make sure we're both on the same page.
Did you get that sense during the interview at all? Any inkling of that?
I did. I felt so comfortable with not only, not only Goody, but with Mark and Russ Ball.